So this piece of linoleum is what you are going to be drawing on, carving out of, and you're going to be making what's called a relief print, which means that you will carve away areas that you don't want printed, okay? And whatever remains kind of raised is what will be printed, all right? So this is a student example from last semester. These are some additional examples that I made. And what you're gonna end up doing is making a variety of prints. So during first semester, when we did this, it was right before winter break. And so the theme was winter prints. Now we are right before graduation, end of the school year, right? We're in spring. So your prompt is going to be a little bit different. But these are some examples, right? There's some variety. You can see there's different colors that have been used, different kinds of paper that have been used, different, borders and all that. Okay, so that's where we're headed. All right. So the first supply that you need to know about is the linoleum, right? This is that soft kind of rubbery material. And that's what you're going to be carving to make your relief print. This is called a brayer, and a brayer is kind of like a paint roller, all right? It's also made of rubber. What you're going to do with the brayer is you're going to run it through ink, and you're going to coat the entire roll here in ink, a nice thin coat, which then you'll use to basically ink over the top of your print on your linoleum. This is a carving tool. It's also referred to as a gouge. It's really important that with your carving tool, it comes with different nibs, and I'll show you where to find these nibs. The nibs are shaped in different ways to help you carve out the soft linoleum. But it's really important that after you're done with a carving tool and you're going to put it back in the bin, that you take the nib out and put it back into the little storage area. So there's the bottom of this carving tool unscrews. Oh my gosh. All right, so linoleum. That's this. The second tool is the brayer. I don't know why I moved from all capitals to sentence case, but whatever. Okay, and then this carving tool, AKA gouge. Carving tool, gouge. I think that's how you spell gouge. All right, let's try this again. So these nibs are stored inside the handle, and then the carving tool has these little metal pieces. So if you look inside, and you'll be able to see this when you get your own gouge, but there is a center kind of post, and there are these little metal pieces that go around that post, and the metal pieces, when you screw the outer part, the metal pieces get pushed together and they hug the blade or the nib, all right? So you'll see there's a variety of nibs here, and these all are different sizes and in different shapes. Most of them are in kind of a V shape. This one is like a squared off V, sort of more of a U shape. This one is a small V shape. This one's sort of a wide V shape, more narrow, and more narrow still. And then this one is like a leaf shape. I'm not really sure what this shape would be used for. But you will choose your nib depending on how large of an area you need to carve out. So first I unscrew the kind of sleeve, that outer part of the gouge, and then I'm going to slide the curved end of the nib in, Okay, maybe I need to loosen this a little bit more. Inside those little outer rings, and then I'm going to tighten by screwing that outer part, okay? And so you should check it, make sure it's not going to wiggle around, all right? And this is what you're going to use to carve out, all right? When you're done, just make sure that you return all of your little nibs to the handle. And don't lose them. All right, and voila. So that's your gouge. Okay, what's next? We also have a palette knife. Palette knife. This is used for a couple of things. So the kind of medium you're going to use to make your prints is actually an ink. And even though it looks a lot like acrylic paint, it is very different. It is water soluble, and it stays wet longer, which is great because that means you can get a couple of prints out of the same small amount. It just rinses off, even after it's dried, it just rinses off with water. And, you know, applying some friction to it. Some of the ink comes in big jars like this, and some of it comes in tubes like this. Just like with acrylic paint, you can mix colors together. And I'll show you how to do that. You're going to want to make sure to pre-mix on a different surface, not on top of the plexiglass. The plexiglass will scrape if you try to mix with the palette knife on top of the plexiglass. So the palette knife is used to take out a little scoop, and you really don't need very much, okay? You really don't need very much, especially if you're going to only be making one print with a particular color. You need a very small amount. And then the brayer, you're going to be rolling it through. Now I'm switching direction, and I am making sure that the ink is covering that entire roller evenly. It should not be really sloppy wet. If you've got little strings of ink that are kind of coming off of your surface, that's probably a little bit too much. So I would recommend either trying to push the ink out a little bit more on your plate to kind of make it thinner, or even like getting a piece of scratch paper and kind of wiping off a layer of the ink if it's sloppy wet. But this is looking good, right? It's, sorry. There's a little bit of a sheen on the brayer and on my plate, but it's not sloppy wet. All right, the ink is nice and even. And then I can take my print, my linocut, which I'll show you more about how to carve this. And then I'm going to roll it onto my little, whoops, you're gonna want some scratch paper down too, because this is pretty typical that you might slide off of your little linocut. And then you can either, put this little stamp basically down on top of your paper, or you can put the paper down on top of the stamp, and a little press just to get it to kind of stick. And then this, a spoon, is what takes the place of a baren. So this tool up here is called a baren, B-A-R-E-N. A baren is used to kind of press the paper down onto the linocut, but we don't have any barens. So a spoon, which has that, what is it, convex or concave? Convex, right? When it bends out? Nobody knows? Okay. Convex, thank you. It has that convex shape. This is going to help you burnish the paper on top of your print. You guys can see this, okay? All right, so burnishing just means you kind of swirl it around, press it down, you get that paper to really evenly be applied to your entire linocut. And you probably can't even see this coming through, but I can start to see a little bit of that ink coming through. Oh, look at that. Way too light. So I didn't get enough ink on there. Which means I'll try a little more. But that might not be enough ink either. Okay. This is also why it's really important to try a test print. All right, so you'll want to do test prints to see if it's going to print the way you want it to. Oopsies. All right, that hopefully is going to be a little bit better. And you can just do these test prints on sketchbook paper. Flip it over. I'm going to use the spoon again as my little makeshift baron. And just kind of rub it all over. Peel it off. Okay, there we go. Now we're cooking with gas. Okay, so there's your little print. All right. Fantastic. So let's talk about the whole process that you're going to go through. You're going to get one piece of linoleum. All right, it's not very big. What is this? This is probably like 3.5 by 5 or something like that. That's the only piece of linoleum you're going to get. Last semester, I was able to get one kind of larger print and one smaller print out of the same piece of linoleum. Actually, I might have even done a little, like I made a little gift tag print as well. So I might have even gotten 3 prints out of it. You can get as many as you want out of it, but this is the only piece you're getting. It doesn't matter which side you carve. And so you might even be able to do like one, design on one side and another on the other side. But for whatever you are going to carve, you have to make a plan first. So the plan will go something like this. You'll do some research, you'll do some inspiration finding online. All right, you'll make a little pin board, and I'll show you how you're going to do that. And then you're going to start to develop some ideas. So like I knew that I wanted to make something for my parents. They had just gotten a new dog. His name's Dave. And so I found some pictures of him. I kind of printed one out, and that's sort of where I started. I started out with just making a little sketch of him using some tracing paper. And then I went through what's called an iterative process. So I took that and I took some of the inspiration that I found, and I was like, how could I adjust this, right? And so like I kind of applied different things that I had found online to it and tried some different sketches. I was also thinking about my brother, who's like very into mushrooms. And so I was kind of thinking about that as well. That's why I have a few different designs here, right? But I'm evolving an idea. I'm iterative. It's an iterative process, meaning that I keep kind of pushing it and developing it over and over again, right? And I did a few different sketches until I landed on one that I really liked. And then I made a final sketch, and I thought about size, okay? And I did this all in just HB pencil, but then when I was ready to actually make my print, then I use 6B pencil. 6B pencil is a very soft lead, and I just darkened it up. Soft graphite, I guess. So I darkened it up, and so that it would transfer. So let's see if I can just, what was already dark, if I can just go ahead and transfer that. So for this, I made sure to line it up, made sure it was gonna fit and all that good stuff. 6B pencil over the entire thing. I really thickened up, boldened those lines so it's nice and dark and kind of thick, and I'll be able to see it. And then I use my little makeshift Baron to rub over the surface of that sketch, and it transferred. Now, if this was all fresh, like see where I had drawn just now, where I had drawn the 6B, that transferred really nicely. The stuff that's sort of older and it's been transferred already, that didn't transfer very well, but this gives me a pretty, visible sketch. It's backwards, but it's going to print the same way that I drew it if I transfer it in this way. Okay, so if you want to include text, this is a really helpful little method, because the text has to print backwards, or has to be carved backwards on the linocut in order to print forward. So that's how I transferred my image. Then you're going to want to use a Sharpie to go over the lines that you want to have visible, okay? The reason for this is in the transferring process, sometimes that sketch might sort of shift around. You might not be able to, you might have a couple of different lines, right? And so you're gonna wanna darken the ones that you're sure about, that you want to have raised up. And so use Sharpie to do that, to just make it really clear. All right, and then you're going to use the carving tool to carve out your image. Everything that you don't carve out, well, I'll just show you an example here. Everything that you don't carve and is still raised will print. All right, so this student only carved some thin lines, has kind of this cross-hatching effect. Obviously, when they put the ink over the top of this and printed it, it printed a lot of black, right? The things that are not printing, or in other words, are going to stay white, are the areas that have been carved away, all right? This is really important to make test prints as well, because when you make a test print, you're gonna see, oh, I didn't quite carve out enough of that area, right? Like I wanted that to be whiter or whatever. You're gonna make several test prints probably before you solidify your design and decide you're good to go. Okay. Great. I am now going to show you the